If you're feeling broken, this video is for you. Have you ever looked at yourself and thought, what happened to me? You used to be different. You used to laugh more. You used to trust people. You used to believe in yourself. You used to have dreams. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Maybe someone broke your trust. Maybe someone you loved made you feel like you weren't enough. Maybe a relationship slowly destroyed your confidence. Maybe someone constantly compared you to other people. Maybe you were made fun of for the way you looked. Maybe someone made you feel stupid for expressing your feelings. Maybe you were always told that you're too sensitive, too emotional, too quiet, too loud, too difficult, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not interesting enough. And after hearing these things again and again, you eventually stopped arguing with them. You started believing them. And that's where something inside you began to break. Because sometimes, the most painful wounds aren't created by strangers. They're created by people whose opinions mattered to you. The person you trusted. The person you loved. The person you thought would protect your heart. And when that person makes you feel small, you don't just question them. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm actually the problem. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I really am difficult to love. Maybe I should change. Maybe they're right. And slowly, you stop being yourself. You start becoming the version of yourself you think other people will accept. You change the way you talk. You change the way you dress. You stop expressing your opinions. You become afraid of saying no. You become afraid of disappointing people. You become afraid of being abandoned. And eventually, you don't even know what you actually want anymore. You're just constantly asking yourself, what will they think? What will they say? Will they leave? Will they judge me? Will they like me? And this is where insecurity becomes dangerous. Because insecurity doesn't always look like hating yourself. Sometimes insecurity looks like constantly needing reassurance. Sometimes it looks like checking whether someone is still interested in you. Sometimes it looks like apologizing even when you did nothing wrong. Sometimes it looks like being afraid to speak because you're scared people will laugh. Sometimes it looks like comparing yourself to every person you see. Sometimes it looks like looking into the mirror and only seeing everything that's wrong with you. And sometimes, it looks like pretending you don't care. You say, I don't care what people think. But deep down, you care more than anyone knows. You post something and keep checking who liked it. You enter a room and immediately notice who looks better than you. You meet someone confident and suddenly feel smaller. You see someone succeeding and instead of feeling inspired, you feel like you're falling behind. You hear someone criticize you, and even after they leave, their voice stays in your head. That's what people don't understand about words. Words can leave the person's mouth in seconds, but stay inside someone else's mind for years. Someone might have forgotten what they said to you. But you haven't. You still remember the comment. The insult. The comparison. The rejection. The moment they laughed at you. The moment they chose someone else. The moment they made you feel unwanted. The moment they told you that you weren't enough. And sometimes, you are still trying to prove that person wrong. But here's the problem. If your entire life becomes an attempt to prove your worth to someone who didn't value you, they still control you. Even after they're gone. You are still living according to their opinion. You are still trying to become worthy in the eyes of someone who already decided you weren't. And you have to understand something. Not everyone who judges you understands you. Not everyone who rejects you knows your worth. Not everyone who leaves you knows what they lost. And not every person who makes you feel small is telling you the truth. Sometimes, they're simply revealing how they choose to treat people. Think about it. If someone repeatedly insults you, that doesn't automatically mean you're worthless. it means they repeatedly chose to insult you. If someone constantly compares you, that doesn't mean you're inferior. It means they chose comparison instead of appreciation. If someone makes you feel like your feelings don't matter, that doesn't mean your feelings are meaningless. It means they didn't know how to handle them. And there is a huge difference. You have to stop turning someone else's behavior into a definition of your identity. Because when someone hurts you, your mind often asks, what is wrong with me? But maybe the better question is, why did I allow their treatment of me to become my definition of myself? You can acknowledge that someone hurt you, without deciding that you deserved it. You can admit that you made mistakes, without deciding that you are a mistake. You can accept rejection, without deciding that you are unworthy of love. You can accept failure, without deciding that you are a failure. And you can admit that you're broken right now, without believing that you'll always be broken. Because broken doesn't mean finished. A cracked heart can still heal. A tired person can still recover. A person who lost confidence can rebuild it. A person who made mistakes can change. A person who spent years hating themselves can learn to treat themselves with mercy. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. You are not required to remain the person that your pain created. Maybe your insecurity was created by something that happened years ago. Maybe someone rejected you when you were younger. Maybe your family constantly compared you to someone else. Maybe a relationship destroyed your confidence. Maybe someone you trusted betrayed you. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe someone made you feel unattractive. Maybe you were ignored. Maybe you were always the second choice. And now, even when someone genuinely appreciates you, you don't believe them. They tell you you're beautiful, you think they're just being nice. They tell you they care, you think they'll leave eventually. They tell you you're doing well, you think they're exaggerating. Why? Because your mind learned to expect rejection. Your mind learned that good things don't last. Your mind learned that compliments may be followed by criticism. Your mind learned that love can disappear. So now, even when something good happens, you are waiting for it to become bad. This is why some people cannot enjoy happiness. They're constantly preparing for its disappearance. Someone loves them, but they're afraid they'll leave. Someone compliments them, but they're waiting for the criticism. Something good happens, but they're already thinking about what could go wrong. And this is where insecurity connects directly to overthinking. You don't just think about what happened. You think about what it means. They replied differently. What does that mean? They didn't call. What does that mean? They looked upset. What does that mean? They liked someone else's picture. What does that mean? They didn't compliment me. What does that mean? And suddenly, a simple situation becomes 1,000 different possibilities. Because underneath the overthinking, there is often a fear. The fear of not being enough. The fear of being abandoned. The fear of being replaced. The fear of being rejected. The fear of being exposed as someone who isn't worthy. And sometimes, you aren't actually afraid of losing the person. You're afraid of what losing them would make you believe about yourself. You think, if they leave me, it means I'm not lovable. If they choose someone else, it means I'm not good enough. If I fail, it means I'm a failure. If someone doesn't like me, it means something is wrong with me. But that's not reality. One person's decision cannot determine your entire worth. One relationship cannot define your ability to be loved. One failure cannot define your future. One person's opinion cannot define who you are. And most importantly, people were never supposed to become the source of your worth. Because people change. People misunderstand. People leave. People make mistakes. People have their own insecurities. People sometimes hurt others because they themselves are hurting. If your entire identity depends on people, your identity will always be unstable. Because people are unstable. But Allah is not. And this is where your relationship with Allah becomes more than just worship. It becomes the foundation of how you see yourself. When you understand that Allah created you intentionally, you stop needing every human being to approve of you. When you understand that your value isn't determined by appearance, money, followers, relationships, or status, you become less controlled by comparison. When you understand that Allah knows your heart, you stop trying so desperately to prove yourself to everyone. You don't need every person to understand you. Allah knows. You don't need everyone to appreciate your effort. Allah knows. You don't need everyone to recognize your pain. Allah knows. You don't need everyone to know how hard you've been trying. Allah knows. And sometimes, that has to be enough. Because there will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be people who don't see your effort. There will always be people who don't appreciate you. There will always be someone who is prettier. Someone richer. Someone more successful. Someone more confident. Someone more popular. If your happiness depends on being better than everyone, you will never have peace. Because there will always be someone ahead of you in something. But your purpose was never to win against every human being. Your purpose is to become the person Allah wants you to become, and that journey is personal. You don't need to be them. You need to become you. Maybe you're insecure because you're constantly comparing your life to people online. You see their perfect pictures, their vacations, their relationships, their achievements, their beautiful homes, their bodies, their careers, their happiness. And then you look at your own life and feel like you're behind. But you're comparing your reality to someone's carefully selected moments. You don't see their private tears, their family problems, their insecurities, their failed relationships, their financial problems, their nights of loneliness. You see the picture. Allah sees the entire story. So stop using someone else's highlight reel to judge your entire life. And stop punishing yourself for not becoming someone else. Maybe your journey is slower. Maybe your healing takes longer. Maybe your success comes later. Maybe your life looks completely different. That doesn't mean you're losing. It means you're on your own path. And sometimes, Allah removes people from your life because their presence was becoming louder than His guidance. Sometimes losing someone feels like punishment, until you realize it was protection. Sometimes the relationship you begged Allah to save was the very relationship you needed Allah to remove. Sometimes you thought you were losing the person, but Allah was saving you from losing yourself. Read that again in your heart. Maybe you weren't losing them. Maybe you were being given the opportunity to find yourself again. Because some relationships don't just break your heart. They slowly change how you see yourself. You become smaller, quieter, more afraid, more insecure, more dependent. You stop recognizing yourself, and when that relationship finally ends, you don't just miss the person. You miss the version of yourself that existed before them. But that version isn't gone forever. You can rebuild. Slowly. Quietly. One day at a time. You can learn to trust yourself again. You can learn to say no. You can learn that boundaries aren't cruelty. You can learn that leaving something harmful isn't failure. You can learn that being alone is better than being constantly disrespected. And you can learn that peace is more valuable than attention. But healing doesn't mean pretending you weren't hurt. You don't have to say, "It didn't affect me." You don't have to pretend you're strong every second. You can say, "Yes. That hurt me. Yes. It changed me. Yes. I still struggle with it. But I'm not going to let it control the rest of my life." That's strength. Strength isn't never breaking. Strength is refusing to stay broken. And maybe right now, you're in the middle of that process. Maybe you still don't like yourself. Maybe you still compare yourself. Maybe you still think about what someone said. Maybe you still feel like you're not enough. Maybe you still look at yourself and only see flaws. But please understand this. You don't have to believe every thought your mind gives you. Your mind can remember pain. Your mind can exaggerate rejection. Your mind can predict abandonment. Your mind can create stories. But your thoughts are not always the truth. Sometimes you need to question the voice inside your head. When it says, "Nobody will ever love me," ask, is that actually true? When it says, "I'm not good enough," ask, according to whom? When it says, "Everyone is better than me," ask, am I comparing reality or imagination? When it says, "I will always feel this way," ask, how do I know? You don't. Your current feelings are not a prophecy. You may feel broken today, but that doesn't mean you'll feel broken forever. You may feel lost today, but that doesn't mean you'll stay lost. You may feel alone today, but that doesn't mean you'll always be alone. You may hate who you are today, but you can learn to love who you're becoming. And perhaps, this is your reminder to stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start asking, "What can I become after this?" Because you cannot control what someone did, but you can decide what their actions create in you. You can let their cruelty make you cruel, or you can let it make you compassionate. You can let rejection make you bitter, or you can let it teach you self-respect. You can let betrayal make you trust nobody, or you can learn to trust wisely. You can let insecurity control your life, or you can slowly build your confidence again. Your pain is real. But your pain does not get to write your entire future. And if you're listening to this while feeling completely broken, I want you to remember one thing. Allah sees the version of you that nobody else sees. The version that cries alone. The version that pretends to be okay. The version that smiles around people and falls apart at night. The version that is tired of being strong. The version that doesn't know how to explain what it's feeling. Allah knows. And you don't have to hide that from Him. Talk to Him. Make dua. Cry in sujud. Tell Allah what you cannot tell anyone else. Ask Him to heal the parts of your heart that people cannot reach. Ask Him to remove the insecurity. Ask Him to give you strength. Ask Him to help you stop seeking your worth from people. Ask Him to replace unhealthy attachments with peace. And then, take care of yourself too. Protect your boundaries. Distance yourself from people who repeatedly humiliate you. Stop chasing people who make you beg for basic respect. Stop comparing your appearance to edited images. Stop measuring your worth through notifications. Stop revisiting conversations that only hurt you. Stop trying to convince someone to see your value. You don't need to convince everyone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away peacefully. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself enough to stop accepting what destroys you. And if you are broken right now, maybe you don't need to become who you were before. Maybe Allah is creating someone stronger, someone wiser, someone more compassionate, someone who understands pain, someone who knows the difference between love and attachment, someone who knows the difference between kindness and people-pleasing, someone who understands that boundaries are necessary, someone who no longer needs everyone's approval, someone who knows that their worth doesn't disappear because someone failed to recognize it. Maybe you're not becoming your old self again. Maybe you're becoming someone better. So if you're feeling broken, don't make a permanent conclusion from a temporary chapter. You are still becoming. You are still healing. You are still learning. You are still growing. And most importantly, you are still here. So breathe. Stop trying to fix your entire life tonight. Take one step. Make one dua. Pray one prayer with your whole heart. Let go of one person you know you need to let go of. Forgive yourself for one mistake. Stop believing one lie you've been telling yourself. And remind yourself, I am not what someone said about me. I am not the relationship that hurt me. I am not the rejection I experienced. I am not the mistake I made. I am not the opinion someone had of me. I am a servant of Allah. And my story is not over. Maybe today you feel broken. But broken doesn't mean worthless. Broken doesn't mean forgotten. Broken doesn't mean finished. Sometimes, it simply means you're finally ready to rebuild. And maybe this time, you're going to build yourself on something that cannot be taken away from you. Not people's approval. Not a relationship. Not beauty. Not money. Not popularity. Not attention. But Allah. Because people can leave. Circumstances can change. Beauty fades. Money disappears. Relationships end. Opinions change. But Allah remains. So if your heart is tired, return to Him. If your confidence is gone, return to Him. If you don't know who you are anymore, return to Him. If someone made you feel worthless, return to Him. And if you're sitting alone right now thinking, maybe I'm too broken to be fixed, remember this. Allah does not need you to come to Him perfect. Come as you are. Come with your mistakes. Come with your tears. Come with your insecurity. Come with your broken heart. Just come. Because sometimes, the beginning of healing is not becoming stronger. It's finally admitting that you need Allah. And maybe, this is your beginning.